kind you never heard of. Hey everybody, welcome to the Common Folk Podcast with Ben, Morgan, and Andy.
All right, welcome back to Common Folk.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think we're going to have a good one today.
It's time.
We got some good folks.
Oh, there you go.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I already opened mine. You guys are late to the party.
We've been doing earlier recordings, so we haven't had many beers lately.
Yeah. And we had a couple minors on, trying new things,
true.
interviewing new and different people.
What, you can't drink around minors?
Well, I usually like to share.
Oh,
and
okay.
Can't do that.
No, that would have not been good.
Yeah. So.
Today was the kids' last day of school, so
Yep.
What about your kids, Andy?
Yes, today was the last day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think most people around here, it's within the last week or two.
Mm-hmm.
Probably all over, right?
Yeah, and now all the public pools will be swarmed with the kids. They just go from station to station. They go from school to the pool, back to school.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's how I did it.
Right. I mean, I used to lifeguard, and the kids, they were like pool rats, we called them.
Yes,
and
I was
literally stay there all day. You were the pool rat.
I was a pool rat.
Right.
My hair would turn blonde, about 3 weeks into the summer.
Green?
Well, I don't know if there was enough chlorine in the Lynch pool to to do that.
We have some guests here today.
Yes, yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. So we are a couple days outside of Memorial Day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we kind of want to do a special episode here to honor that and to talk about a couple of different things. It's Thursday right now. Andy's probably going to get this out tomorrow, I assume, Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when folks will be hearing it on the weekend of Memorial Day. And I want to begin with something. I think a lot of folks think about these holidays and don't really understand what these holidays are all about. So for a lot of common folk, it's a nice extra day off. You get a long weekend. Have a good barbecue. Maybe go visit your buddies. Whatever.
Chance to get the boat in the water.
Get the boat out. Yeah, and it is
Have
all
some drinks, like all of the above.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is all those things, but there's a reason for it, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So what I want to start with is on Instagram, cpl.page. That's you guys, right?
That's us.
Put something out today that I thought summed it up pretty well, so I want to go through this. It begins with Memorial Day 2023. The origin of Memorial dates back hundreds of years. Decoration Day started in the 1800s. Towns and cities around America began honoring fallen soldiers and decorating their graves. In 1868, May 30th was designated as Decoration Day. 1968, Congress passed the Uniform Holiday Act, establishing the Monday in May as Memorial Day. 1971, Decoration Day became Memorial Day and a federal holiday. So something to keep in mind, where that comes from. I think that's a great way of summing it up and reminding folks.
Yeah.
So with that being said, you kind of get the general idea of what our topic is today. And we have a very unique opportunity of speaking with a family of one of our fallen service members from the 13 in Kabul. August 26th, is that correct? August 26th of 21. So to start with, let's introduce them. We've got Greg and Jenny Page. Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, for sure. So the folks who have listened to the podcast for a while might recognize Greg. It's been almost a year ago, or just over a year ago, whatever we figured out earlier, that Greg was in here, was running for local school board. And
what's the update?
I got on.
You got on.
Comic Book Podcast.
Okay, I mean, I had to ask. Other people might want to know.
That pause, I'm like, oh my God, did you get second place?
he was
He
like,
actually
well.
did get second place.
Oh, whoa.
They took the top three.
Oh, excellent. There we go.
Perfect.
He
Hey.
was like, well, I was going to win, but then these
Yeah.
jackwagons put me on.
Negative light on this podcast. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So anyway, local folks, and before we start asking them some questions, let's take a step back here a second for that 13. As I said, August 26, 2021, in Kabul. Excuse me. I'd like to read through the list real quick. So of our fallen service members. So just down the list in no particular order: Staff Sergeant Darren T. Hoover. And Greg, if I get any of these wrong, please correct me as far as the pronunciations go. Marine Corps Sergeant Johanny Rosario Picardo, 25 years old. Hoover was 31. Marine Corps Sergeant Nicole L. Gee, 23. Marine Corps Corporal Hunter Lopez, 22. Marine Corps Corporal Daegan W. Page, 23. Marine Corps Corporal Humberto A. Sanchez, 22. Marine Corps Lance Corporal David L. Espinoza, 20. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Jared M. Schmitz, 20. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Riley J. McCollum, 20. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Dylan R. Marola, 20. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Kareem Nikui, 20. Navy Hospitalman Maxton W. Soviak, 22. And Army Staff Sergeant Ryan C. Canas, 23. So that's the 13. And let's talk about that a little bit. Have you guys, first of all, let's just get into that part. So, Greg and Jenny, have you guys had the opportunity to get to know those families and spend some time with them?
We have, and everybody kind of has a different amount that they're willing to share and talk with others, but we do have chats where most of the families are in there that we communicate, especially about things that are happening with the 13. There's so much that happens as a group of 13 that just trying to keep on top of it is almost impossible. So everybody kind of chimes in and says, hey, this is going on in our area or something we heard about. And so for the most part we do. Like I say, some families are a little more communicative than others within that, or kind of handle it differently. But for the most part, we all stay in touch.
Okay, cool. And maybe we'll get into a little bit more of that. And then, to kind of go on from there and get a little bit more specific. If you haven't put the names together yet, obviously today we're speaking with the parents of Daegan Page. Gold Star parents, that's what they call it, right? Is that what
that is, yes.
That's the title? Mm-hmm. So they have a son who was killed in action, as we said, August 26, 2021 in Kabul during the pullout from a suicide bomber. So, again, it's Memorial Day. That's what this day is about, is honoring, the life and the service and the thanks for those folks.
Yeah.
So it's very cool that we get the opportunity to do that with you guys here and kind of chat through it a little bit. So before we start, I've got a couple of things I'd like to kind of go through for this episode. But Andy or Morgan, you guys have anything to add or chime in?
This day means a lot to me because both my uncle and my father were in the service. My uncle passed away a few years ago. He was in the Navy, and my father served in the Korean War for the Air Force, and he was a bilingualist. He could speak both languages, so they would get him up in the birds way up in the sky, and he would listen in and try and break their codes and figure out what they were saying and relay that back. And I don't ever get to hear a lot of those stories. I actually hear them secondhand down at the bar from his buddies, and then they tell me, So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I was just curious, and we can talk about this later, kind of what Ben was talking about with the weekend, but also kind of the fun festivities. If you guys end up getting a lot of people at your place, if you guys get to do a lot of things, or if people are golfing, or, you know what I mean, just like the activities, sitting around, reminiscing, that stuff would be fun to talk about too. So
yeah, and maybe let's just start with that. So what, obviously this day has changed for you guys. What was it like before and what is it like now?
It's kind of an interesting process, and I guess we're kind of still figuring it out a little bit too. This will be our second Memorial Day since everything happened. We've always been a patriotic family, so to speak, and it always meant a lot to us when you get to any of these holidays like this. Obviously, this put a little bit of a different twist on it for us, and we're still kind of trying to figure out what that means for us in the long term. But there's a lot of events that are happening. There's the parade. There's some events going on at Memorial Park in Omaha. There's a lot of things that are happening, and I'm not, just being honest about it, I'm not really at the point where I'm comfortable going to do those yet. So a lot of it for me is just kind of hanging out at home and being comfortable in my own space. But there's we've got a fairly large family, or Daegan had a fairly large family between, his mom and stepdad and Jenny and I and a girlfriend, and everybody kind of handles it differently and does different things throughout it. So everybody's kind of got their own way that they celebrate, the way that they do that. But, at the end of the day, it was a holiday that Daegan loved. He wants everybody to tip a drink and enjoy the day, but take a few moments to remember, all of those that are gone.
For sure. So for you guys, what will this weekend look like? What do you guys have planned?
That's a good question. We'll probably go out to the cemetery early. They do some events out there. And again, I'm kind of just, I don't want to say avoiding them, but kind of do our own thing, I guess. Yeah. So we'll go out to the cemetery early and spend some time with him. And then we'll probably just hang out around the house and spend some time with friends and stay close.
Do you have family coming in, or any of his friends or anybody like that? Or is it pretty chill?
Yeah, it's pretty chill for the most part. He does have a couple of his college or high school friends are around. He's got some of his friends that were deployed with him are actually here local now as well. So I'm sure that we'll spend a little bit of time with them throughout all this, but nothing necessarily planned.
Yeah, which is probably, again, I respect that everyone wants to do what they're comfortable with. And I think that's great that you said that, because could be other people wanting to go to downtown to Memorial Park or do these huge parades, but you guys are fine doing what you want, and maybe that will change next year. Maybe that will change in 10 years. You just don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the joy of grief, I guess, is everybody deals with it differently.
Absolutely.
And one day something might sound good, and then the next day you're like, nope, not
going to do it. Yeah.
What would you guys say to folks who, they obviously haven't been through what you've been through, and they look at today and they look at it as an opportunity, or they look at this weekend and they look at it as an opportunity to, reach out to you and, give their apologies and their thanks and all these kinds of things. And I assume you guys are probably going to get fairly overwhelmed with a lot of that stuff. What do you want people to know about that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's tough because people all have good intentions, and they want to deal with it different ways, whether it's coming to see how you're doing, whether it's sending you a message, whatever that may be. And we're pretty good about kind of setting our boundaries of here's what we're going to do. And a lot of times it's say we'll be out on the deck having a drink. If you want to come over type of thing. But for the most part, it's tough to really give advice there, because again, everybody else kind of handles that differently too. From our aspect, we like having the company. We want people to enjoy the holiday as well. Like I say, it's enjoy it. Take a few minutes to remember, why we're having that holiday. But I think again, everybody just kind of handles it differently. For us, it's we like having the company, we like having people around, and when we're done, we'll say, hey, we're out.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's good to hear. I'm glad that helps you guys out. So we are here to honor and to speak about Daegan a little bit. So let's start with that if we can. From him being a young boy and growing up, and kind of how all that looked, so that America and beyond. I mean, we've got folks listening to this podcast from all over the world, really. From
what did we say, Brisbane, Australia?
We were
Shout out Brisbane.
The other day.
Yeah.
For them to have a little bit better understanding again of who these folks really are, humanizing this job and this holiday. So let's start there. Where and when was he born, and let's kind of run with that.
Yeah, and I like this side of it. And one of the things of the 13 and this event got national attention. I mean, it was all over national news, and people saw the Marine side of Daegan. So I love being able to share the story of this was Daegan before he was a Marine, and who he really was.
Yeah.
And, he was born in Omaha. He was always, since a little kid, I will say, I don't know if adrenaline junkie is the right word, but we refer to it as living the day way, where you kind of live on your terms and live without fear. And he had that from day one. And when he was little, he used to, when he would get hurt, he would hold his breath. And till he passed out, and a lot of times wouldn't start again on his own. So we had a lot of ambulance rides. We had a lot of panic moments trying to figure out what we do with that. And thank goodness he outgrew that. But he never outgrew the looking for the adrenaline and trying to push himself and going more and more. And he just, that was kind of his life in a nutshell was he was always willing to take it to the extra step, go the extra level, try to push himself, try to push others. He liked to make people uncomfortable. If he could do that, that was a win for him. School wasn't necessarily something he enjoyed. So he got through it, but it wasn't something that he wanted to do long term. When he got out of school, he had no interest in going into college. So he was kind of looking at what are my next steps, what do I want to do, and he did have that drive, and he wanted to do better for himself. And that's when he came to us and said, hey, it wasn't really a question. It was, I'm going to go into the Marine Corps.
So he just told you.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm doing this.
Yeah. And so we asked the normal parent questions of, why are you doing this? Have you really thought this through? Is there somebody else going in? And he had all the right answers. And the last question I asked him, I said, okay, this all makes sense. And his answers were he wants to better himself. College isn't for me. I want to do better. And I said, well, why the Marine Corps? And he's like, well, he goes, I want to push myself and I want to be a badass.
Oh,
there you go.
Fair enough.
There you go.
So that was my question. I was going to say, why did he pick them and not like Air Force, all the other branches? So
yeah, and it's amazing. As we talk to Marines, you find there's a lot of common threads in the people that go into the Marine Corps, right? They all have some pretty similar stories of their drive, of how they've gotten there. The school story of not college wasn't for them is not an uncommon story within the Marines, and it definitely was a fit for him. He found his brotherhood there. He really enjoyed the people he served with. It's a tight community, and that was really a good fit for him.
And feel free to poke fun at the Air Force, because I know that goes on. And just because my dad poked fun at himself being in the Air Force, I know they're the little sisters of the four branches. Yeah, so it's all good. It's all good.
We won't say what Daegan called him.
I believe that.
We respect them all.
did he ever
Yes.
tell you stories about training camp and all that stuff? Was it so hard? That's so interesting to me. I always feel
You
like
should tell the confidence chamber story.
Yeah, so he did. And,
Okay.
The other thing I have to say about Daegan is there was a cockiness to him even before he went into the Marines, and after going through boot camp and everything else, it even got more intensified. So it was never afraid to tell those type of stories. But one of the things that they do is through boot camp they have to go into, it's called the confidence chamber, but it's basically a gas chamber. And when they're in there, they're asked to take their mask off, and they have to take their mask off for a certain amount of time, or they give them a hand signal of when they can put it back in to make sure that they have their eyes open or whatever that is. And he one of the first times he was in there, I think it was.
Well, weeks coming up to it, he would tell all of his battalion mates, I'm immune. I'm immune to this, guys. I'm not worried. I'm not worried. I'm immune.
So they get in there, and they had to pop their masks and take the masks off, and everybody's watering up, and the kid that's next to him is telling Daegan, he's like, I can't do it. I'm going to have to get out of here. I can't do it. I can't do it. And Daegan takes, his mask, teary-eyed, red eyes, and goes, I'm immune. And he was on the verge of puking, right? He was completely not there. But as we found out, that's not an uncommon story with Daegan. He was always willing to, talk some smack when times were tough. And that was one of the legacies we heard, even through boot camp and through his deployments, and we heard from kind of all of his seniors was, I think the phrase they used was, Daegan shined the brightest when the times were dark, and that he was very much the guy in the team that would step up and say, hey, I know it sucks right now, but we're going to keep going. Everybody, let's go, and keep driving. And I thought that was kind of a cool legacy for him to have, that, he was willing to push and drive people and energize people when it was tough.
He's a son of a gun that you want on your side.
Right.
Yeah.
How old was he when he was doing the holding his breath and passing out deal? Because I just heard a podcast about how children do that, and they that's their hammer to hold. Like, you better give me my way, or I'm going to pass out.
Yeah, he was probably, I'm going to say it happened until he was probably around 5 or 6. I don't remember exactly when it was.
That's some determination. They usually cut it off between 2 and 3.
So, no.
Yeah.
Well,
and they told us that when we first started taking him in there, they said, this sometimes happens voluntarily. And then by the time he was a little bit older, they said, no, it's not a voluntary thing for him. He's just...
So he's stubborn.
Yeah.
But
strong-willed children.
Yeah.
Did you guys have to keep around any unusual medical supplies or anything, just in case you had to revive him?
A surgery kit?
No, we never did.
No.
But we,
he just knew he was going for a ride in the ambulance. So he called it, and
Oh, so maybe
Knew it
he
was
liked the
coming.
ride though too.
Yeah,
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't, and it just kind of stopped. I mean, I can't say an exact moment when it stopped happening, but it didn't even really, it wasn't like it just happened less. It just all of a sudden didn't happen anymore. And,
Yeah.
But yeah, he kind of grew out of it, I guess. But yeah, it was interesting because he would pass out, turn blue, and he still wasn't breathing even after he passed out. And there were a lot of times that, it was till the ambulance got there.
Jeez. So to rewind a little bit, and I think this pertains to a couple of things you guys are doing with the foundation, and then also I want to tie it into what you were talking about, where his teammates were saying how he was kind of the guy who was always, pushing them on, like, let's go, it's not time to stop, but, what's the next step, so on and so forth. What did you see that in his life earlier, like in the high school years or anything, that he would take things on that way? And I know he's involved in some sports and those kinds of things. So what was that stuff?
Yeah, and he was always involved in things that involved brotherhood. So, like the Marine Corps, we talk about the brotherhood and the friends that he made there. But he was involved in the hockey community, which is a very similar brotherhood. Those boys that he played with are all still a close-knit group that talk to each other and hang out. He was involved in Boy Scouts, which was the same way. And so we started to see a lot of that. And in those types of scenarios, he was. And we hear that a lot from, like his hockey teammates have told us that time and time again about, how he was that way during hockey. I don't know that it was necessarily that way with, I look at school, for example. He wasn't interested in pushing hard there. He was more, let's go get to the hockey rink. Let's go do these things. But those areas where, he was really going, that it was absolutely a trend that he'd had for his entire life.
Hockey was a big part of his life. I know you guys have kind of tied that into the foundation a little bit. Was there any other things as well that he just always wanted to be involved in, or you would consider would be kind of a part of him?
Yeah, I think, Daegan had some outlets where, if he was having a down day or he was just struggling, that was his way to go kind of get that release or go enjoy it. And it was hockey, it was skateboarding, he was into photography. Those were the types of things where he would go, and that was kind of his way to reset or get centered again, or tune out the rest of the world, whatever he needed at that moment. But hockey and skateboarding were probably the biggest.
Do you guys, I might be mistaking this, but I just want to ask just in case, were you guys doing something with the foundation that was surrounding animals or something? Was there anything that, no, I might be mistaken. That was something else. I didn't know if that was part of his life or not.
Well, the animals were for sure.
There was the
dog rescue.
Yes.
That's probably what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, he was an animal lover for sure. Dogs specifically. And he had 2 dogs at his mom's house. He had the dogs at our house. And then we did a partnership with the Heartland German Shepherd Rescue. It's Hugs. I'm drawing a blank on what the G is. German Shepherd.
Yeah.
German Shepherd. Thank you. Yeah.
Ding ding.
Yeah, where we did some donations of toys, food, things that they might need for their rescues, and then a donation financially too to help get them some things going. So we've done a couple things with that group to kind of keep his name going, and the animal piece for sure.
That sounds pretty fitting too, because you hear about that breed of dogs, and you basically described them when you're describing Daegan. You know what I mean? Kind of high strung.
Yeah, that's true.
Getting after it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he was absolutely. There was definitely a connection there.
Cool. I've got other questions written down. You guys, I feel like I'm doing all the talking. You guys,
No,
want to jump in?
go.
Keep rolling.
I have questions, but go for it.
Okay. I guess moving on from that, I don't fully understand the military as far as, when you get into the inner workings of it. I've obviously never been a member of the military. We do have some family that are. In the Marines, do they have like a certain position or like a certain area of focus that they're assigned to, or that kind of thing? And if so, what was his?
Yeah, so this is another very Daegan story. So Daegan was infantry,
Okay.
but he didn't announce that until he was getting on the bus to go to boot camp.
He needed to tell you that, he had to proclaim this before?
No, what he's getting at is that the infantry it's the frontline guys. It's the guys that are going into the shit, and you don't really want to tell your parents that you are volunteering to be the one that's going to take the bullet first.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, so when asked, he had told his mom and others that he was going into, I think he was talking about doing some flight mechanics, things like that. And then when he was doing his swearing in before leaving for boot camp, they asked what his MOS was or his area of specialization, and he called out infantry. And it was a bit of a surprise to the family that that's what he was doing, although we kind of knew that was really what the long-term plan was.
Gotcha. Okay. So he was in that.
Yeah, he was. And so within infantry, he went to, it changes a little bit on where you go. So once he got out of boot camp, he went to infantry school. So they teach them a lot of the things around being a rifleman, shooting, around kind of the tactical aspects of being an infantryman within the Marines. So his training was a little bit different than, say somebody that went into, go into the medical side of it, or they would go into different training. So most of his, first year and a half was focused around those type of trainings. He was doing some mountain warfare trainings. He was doing, the infantry trainings, those types of things where it was a little bit different. But that was the piece he really enjoyed. He liked going out there and doing that. He liked, understanding where he was supposed to be. He really liked knowing that this is the expectation of me, this is the expectation of others, and kind of what the regulations were around him and the others that he was with.
Yeah. Did you guys, like growing up, did you ever shoot much? I mean, we talk about, I feel like, hunting and shooting guns and things like that on this podcast frequently. Is that like something he grew up doing, or was this kind of newer to him?
No, he did. We spent a lot of time hunting growing up, and actually one of the things that I talk about quite a bit is he was an incredible shot as a kid. I mean, even as a little kid, kind of a little bit of an anomaly where you're like, wow, he's really good at this from distance shots and things like that. And he took a lot of pride in that. And even when he got into boot camp, they have to qualify for their rifleman badge, and there was no option for him other than getting expert. He was, that wasn't going to happen. So he spent a lot of time practicing and making sure that he got there. But he was always around guns. Whether it was hunting, we'd go just shoot sometimes, those types of things. But he was always into that.
Okay, I kind of figured, honestly, thinking someone probably wouldn't pick infantry as their like position if you're probably not quite familiar with that, but I just didn't know. I mean, maybe there's some people that come in.
I would bet most of them probably have some type of background there.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay.
There's obviously a certain level of aggressiveness that's needed to want that position.
Yeah, especially in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
I mean, on fantasy scales, it's like being a middle linebacker of football. I mean, you're going to get smashed or you're hitting a collision every time. And we always joked around. We played with a phenomenal middle linebacker in college, and we all agreed, like, there's something off on this guy. I mean, he is crazy. He's looking for it,
Yeah, and I talked earlier about, kind of the things you see within Marines that are common. And that's, some of the things you see, the attitude, you see they didn't really care for school, or, there's just so many similar stories that you hear when you talk to other parents or talk to, the Marines or his battalion mates and things like that, you start to realize that, hey, there's a reason that this group all came together. There's similar interests. They have a similar background. They have the same amount of cocky smack talk to each other. It's an interesting group.
Yeah.
And it's not that they don't like rules or they're looking to break rules. They just need their issues to be a little stronger. You know what I mean? Like the rules need to make sense. It can't be stand in line, be quiet. Why do I need to be quiet? Because that's what we've always done when we're in line at lunch. Like, no, I need more than that,
Yeah. I had Daegan's captain, when he was over in Afghanistan, was in town this week, and we went and had breakfast, and he was just kind of telling stories about Daegan is, after he came into the battalion and met Daegan and getting to know him, and there was a lot of those stories of, Daegan would question the why quite often.
Yep.
So good. How does that go, though, can you, again, I don't know a ton, like, about the military and all this. Like, can you question that? Or, like, is he doing push-ups and sit-ups or what?
Yeah, he was, he got in a fair amount of trouble.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So,
but he made up for it. They all, I kind of heard the same story, and this was even from boot camp on, that, he was not afraid to push the limits, but at the same point, he would make sure he did his job incredibly well. So, he would get away with some things that, if he wasn't doing a good job as, in his trainings, or doing a good job as a leader of his team or those types of things, he would have been in probably more trouble where, he kind of was able to get by because he was doing such a good job in those areas.
Yeah. And it sounds like they really liked him, and he's cute. Like, I'm sure he kind of, had that little swagger. So got away with some stuff.
Yep.
With swagger, yeah.
Just saying.
That helps.
I'm sure he talked himself out of a few things.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it.
So did he go in directly out of high school?
No, he took about a year off,
Okay.
and he was kind of trying to figure out what he wanted to do. He was working for a company loading trucks here in town, and just was looking for what are the options for me to do better. And like I said, going to college wasn't something that was on his radar, although he had talked about doing that when he got back, going to a trade school. But at the time, it was just I need to figure out what I'm going to do. I want to do better, and that was kind of his time to figure that out, and that was his outcome.
Cool. So what was the amount of time that he served? When did he start?
February of
January
was
18.
oh yeah, sorry, January
18.
of 18, yeah.
18.
Yeah, so he would have gotten out the December they got back from Afghanistan. So he
Okay.
was 3 months away from getting out.
And that would have been, are they required to do like 4 years? Is that what the deal is?
Yeah, he's done
Okay.
4 years.
Okay.
When he first went in, he talked about re-enlisting and,
Yeah.
and making a career out of it. And by the time he was done, or probably 2 years in, he was pretty adamant that he was going to get out and come back and go to trade school.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yep. So he was just about done with his original assignment, essentially.
Correct. Yep.
And then he was going to try to get into the trades.
Yep.
What trade interested him the most?
Being a lineman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Once again,
That's still risky there. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That kid.
Yeah.
Ashley, my wife, she can't even watch those videos of those linemen going up to pull, and they have all those harnesses on and their helmet and everything else. And she's like, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is very risky.
Yeah, and it's been amazing. The linemen from, I'd say, all over Nebraska, all over the U.S. have been really good about, there's linemen from, heck, I guess they're all over, but they've put stickers on their helmets of Daegan. They've put some stuff together for him. It's been a really supportive community. Just them even knowing that he was interested in
Wow.
that got them fired up, and
Very cool.
yeah, it was really cool.
Man, so that's interesting. So I think that really gives people a great glimpse of who Daegan was and what he did and who he wanted to be. Is there anything that you think we missed or that you wished we would have asked or talked about there on, about him and his life?
No, you hit the big ones. The things I try to get people to understand, like I said, is he's more than just the Marine that people saw on the news. And he loved hockey, he loved skateboarding, he loved people. Like if he would do anything for his friends. He would also be the first one to tell them they were idiots if they did something wrong.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he would do anything for his friends and for his family. And he enjoyed that. He would come back and spend time with his friends and family and hang out with us and, kind of do things that a lot of kids wouldn't do when they came back. A lot of kids come back and go off and they're not hanging out with their family or they're going to do other things. And he was always content to come see us and hang out with us and do things with us. And he was just... I'm a little biased, but he honestly was just a good kid in that regard. And he had a wild streak, and he was very confident in who he was and what he was going to do, and he wasn't afraid to own that.
Yeah.
Now, where was he stationed? Did we talk about this?
Yeah, he was stationed in Camp Pendleton, just outside of San Diego, California.
Okay, so not close. So when he came back, it was for, was it weeks or here or there? Or he probably couldn't get away much.
No, it was usually for a week would be about the longest.
Okay.
And then we would try to get down there every once in a while to go see him as well, and
Yeah.
that was always fun because you end up having 15 Marines show up for dinner that night. But it was great going down to see him down there too, and meeting some of those guys. And they're the ones that have been coming up here and supporting us and helping the family as well through all of this. And some of them are on the board of the foundation, so it's a good group of guys as well. But yeah, he spent his time in Pendleton. It was a new world for us too. You get used to. You've had him at Thanksgiving every year of his life, and then all of a sudden, hey, he's in Japan or he's in Korea or wherever it is, and you're not seeing him. And it was kind of an adjustment on both sides. So we were both excited to kind of see each other when he was home.
Yeah.
You mentioned the foundation there, and the guys helping out, and the folks you worked with, and kind of touched on that a little bit. That's something that I want to make sure that we talk about as well. Obviously, you guys started that up when how long after this event did you start that, and kind of what were the motivations?
We started it almost immediately, and part of it was we got a lot of support from all over, from people that were wanting to help, that were wanting to do something, and we had to figure out what to do. For the financial donations, we had to figure out what to do with people that wanted to help, and the foundation was it just kind of happened, to be honest. I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer as we went into this. The motivation, from my perspective, was this is only a tragedy if we let it be. If we can do good things in Daegan's name, if we can keep his name going, that makes something that continues out of this that's good. And our goal was, how do we support those things that were the brotherhood to Daegan? How do we support veterans that aren't getting help they need right now? How do we support those communities that Daegan was involved in? And we've kind of adjusted over time into trying to find what are the areas that other organizations aren't taking care of. And one of them for us, that we had a retreat earlier this year, and one of the things that we talked about was, we look at Daegan's girlfriend, Jessica, from a standard military perspective, when something like this happens, there's no support for her.
Because they're not married.
Right.
Okay.
And there's so many other use cases like that. You look at, say you've got two service members that live together and this happens. Well, nobody's helping that other service member take care of his mortgage or his rent or whatever it is. Nobody's helping with. So if you're not family, directly in their eyes, it becomes a struggle to get mental health help. All of those things that you kind of take for granted, they don't have any access to, and nobody to guide them through it or help them. So we're trying to help where we can there and try to make it easy. So, reimbursing them if they want to go get mental health support, trying to point them in the right direction. We just partnered with Lutheran Family Services to help them do, they call them buddy checks, where veterans get together and go have pizza and beer.
Yeah.
And, hey, how are you doing? And, that's a community that they'll talk to each other a little bit more than they'll talk to others. So we're just trying to help out in those areas that maybe are a little bit different than what some of the other organizations are doing.
That's fantastic. I got a lighter one for you. It sounds like this foundation, it's willing to go in different directions, do different things. You mentioned the dog support for German Shepherds, and that kind of mirrored Daegan's, his mentality. And you mentioned you did a lot of skateboarding.
Yes.
What if for the younger kids that want to, younger people that want to support the foundation, you come out with a line of skateboards that are just a little bit more dangerous, a little bit faster than the other skateboards?
I knew he was going to come up with something.
There we go.
I knew this was going to get good.
So we've talked about this, and we actually are supporting. There's an event coming up, and I don't have the date, called Skate Fest.
Okay.
But we've talked about how we can get engaged there, and we are going to do some things. And we've talked over the years
fantastic.
about, do we just start, kind of planting some skateboards out there in Daegan's name for people that
Making some skateboards.
That'd be
Yeah.
cool.
Get some custom wheels.
That would be fun.
Extra ball bearing.
Yeah.
There we go.
But, again, for, there's a ton of people out there that would love to skateboard, but they can't afford the gear. If we could help out there, that's another way to keep his legacy name. And, we call it the day way, of the way that he lived life. And if we can do those things to keep the day way going, I think those are all great.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is.
So the foundation, if I just try to do some quick math, you're a year and a half in, somewhere in that range. Would that be right?
It is. And we had, so I talked about, we did the retreat, and we brought in somebody as an advisor to talk to us that had kind of experience in the nonprofit world. And we did a little bit of a reset, just because initially we kind of opened it up to everything. We just want to help. And he gave us some advice that, hey, you've got to narrow this down a little bit and really figure out what your focus is. So we kind of did a reset, and we're still ramping up from that a little bit. So we've been around for a year and a half, but I would say we've spent a lot of that time learning and trying to kind of figure out our path.
Yeah, no, and I think what I was getting at is that a year and a half is a very short amount of time for the amount of things that you guys have been involved in so far, in my opinion.
Well, and that's what I was thinking when Andy said that. I thought, oh my gosh, there's so many things you could be involved in. How do you decide? That's got to be hard.
Well, we can put the skateboards on the back burner.
Okay,
That's all right.
all right.
It's okay.
But yes, so then to your point, it's just kind of figuring out which avenues, and that's probably good to get some guidance from someone that's done this or.
It is, and where to get involved is tough, because you assume that everybody is doing things out of a good heart and doing things for the right reasons, but you always have to do a little bit of checking of what's really behind this, or who else are they working with, and it's not always easy to just immediately determine, hey, do we want to partner with this group or not partner with this group, because there may be something in their passed or somebody else that they partner with. So you have to be a little bit careful. And all of this is new to us. We're figuring it out. We're getting better at it. But it's I feel like we're kind of on the verge of making things pop here, but we still got a few things to finish out. But
right. And Jenny, you lead a lot of this, right? Like the foundation stuff. I mean, not saying Greg, you don't. Hello, you guys are in everything.
Yes,
but
everyone's all kind of involved. I've taken the role of handling all of the merchandise.
Okay.
Through your store.
Okay.
You guys have helped us a lot with just design and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm always looking just for ideas, ways we can help, and ways that fit into our mission.
Right.
So it's easy to go and help, live the day way. That's the fun part of it all. But how do we reach those veterans? How do we reach their loved ones and help them?
Yeah. Okay. You had the website up, and I actually haven't even seen that before. So
yeah,
it's really good.
Yeah, for sure. I was just looking at a couple things on the website, and a couple of the key points that people would really want to know you guys address right out there in the open. And the first one being, where does the money come from for the foundation? And as you've touched on, you guys had a lot of early donations from just the general public that really kind of got that thing off the ground, right?
We did. And there's been a lot of events and a lot of people out there, and we still find them every once in a while that we didn't even know about, of people that are out there doing events for the 13 that, there's a lady that has put together hat shirts, and she's been out at events, talking about the 13, keeping their name going. There's a group that has done things with motorcycles. There's a van out there with the 13 names on it driving around. There's the Wounded Warrior Support Bronco that's got their pictures on it driving around.
There's a gentleman doing Ironmans throughout the United States, and every time he crosses the finish line, he dedicates it to one of the 13. So Daegan's will be in Des Moines in a couple weeks, and so when he crosses the finish line, they'll call
June 11th.
Yeah, they'll call out Daegan's name.
Awesome.
That is so cool.
So you've got that, and then it says that obviously you guys are doing some other things, fundraising activities, things like that. But what I was surprised to read is that a lot of the money currently going into the foundation is coming just from the families involved. So you guys having to get financially involved yourselves to keep some of these things moving. Is that the case?
We've done really well off the donations, but the families, we certainly want to make sure we're putting our share in there too, and that we're staying engaged. So a lot of the stuff that was given to the families early on, we put in. Obviously, we're putting in our own donations in there as well, but we just wanted to make sure that people understand, we're committed to this. This isn't just hey, we're going to do this till other people's money run out.
Right.
This is something where, we're committed to, we're going to continue to be invested in ourselves, and that we're going to make sure that we're using the money wisely and doing things that are important.
And on the flip side of that, you've got you have yourselves that spend a lot of time in it, other folks in your family as well, and then you have a board. And as of today, no one is collecting any money from this foundation. It's not
correct.
There's no paid positions.
No, we don't have any paid positions. Everything is volunteer.
Yeah.
So our board is Jenny and myself, Daegan's mom and her husband Craig, Daegan's girlfriend Jessica, and then we have some family friends in there that have kind of a specialized area that we can utilize, as well as we have one of Daegan's battalion mates who he's known since boot camp in there as well. So we've got kind of a good group to kind of figure out different areas and drive those things. But everybody is doing it at a volunteer basis and doing it because of their love for making sure we keep that mission going.
100%. 100%. Do you guys have any other questions about the foundation at all, or no?
Gosh, no. I can think of.
All right. Well, how about, especially for the local folks, any upcoming events that you guys have, or things that they might want to pay attention to or be a part of?
I should have brought a list because I know I'm going to miss some stuff here. But we have there's all kinds of stuff going on, and I love it, and it's sometimes overwhelming to keep track of. But we have several things coming up. We have that Ironman that we talked about on June 11th. On June 10th, there is a car show being put on. So a company in town called K.I.A, when everything happened, they made some car decals for us that have, the Remember logo and the 13 on there. And they've been incredible in helping us out with things. Well, they also had started the Metro Mopar Addicts car group. And so they've kind of leaned on their group and said, we'd like to do a car show for Corporal Page, and it has grown huge. It's going to be on June 10th at it used to be Baxter car lot right off of 144th and the interstate there by Sapp Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
and it's the old car lot there. But so there's doing a show and shine is what they're calling it on the 10th. There's some stuff coming up over Memorial Day, some dedications and wreath lanes between the Memorial Park and out at the cemetery. What am I missing?
Golf.
Got the golf outing in September 16th and 17th.
Hockey.
Yeah, we've got the Daegan Page Memorial Hockey Tournament is coming up, and that one I don't have the dates in front of me.
June 23rd.
Okay.
Well, where would be the best place for folks to find these kinds of things? Like, do you have them listed on social media at all, or
We
those
do.
kinds of things?
So we have a Facebook page for both the foundation, and then we have a Never Forget page for Daegan. But the foundation page, we do a good job of keeping those out there and making sure that we're pushing them, as well as we're starting to put them out on the website so that we have a list that everybody can go and look at. But the social media, the Facebook page or the Instagram is probably the best place to see kind of what's happening, what's upcoming.
And what would folks look for specifically if they're trying to find those pages? What would it be called?
Yeah, if they just do a search for Corporal Daegan Page, so it's CPL. We've abbreviated most of them, but it'll search for it either way. You can also link to them off our webpage, which is daeganpage.org, and it's DAEGANPAGE.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It made me think of a couple of things when you were talking about that. Like, do you guys have any needs, or are you looking for any volunteers or anybody with specialty skills in certain areas? As an example, like, I'm looking at the website, and the website looks great. One of the things I was thinking was, man, a list of all the upcoming events, and
like
that's
a calendar.
Time and effort and coding skills and all these kinds of things.
You
like
need volunteers.
Yeah, it just made me think, like, is there certain categories or certain skill sets that you guys maybe are looking for that you would love to have somebody come help with?
There's a lot.
Yeah.
And, some of this we've taken on ourselves, even from the standpoint of accounting. We've had some of the accountants help us out with the taxes and things like that. But, we would love to have volunteers help on that side. We'd love to have some help from the social media perspective. And we're doing a decent job with it. But it's one of those where, there's not enough time in the day to get to everything out there. So, yeah, we would love to have volunteers just to help with kind of the day-to-day organization. And then with each one of the events, of course, we can always use help with helping us man booths at different events. Like I said, we're setting up a booth at Vet Stock is another event we have coming up. And, that's one of those areas where we're just going to try to get the word out about the foundation, the word out about the 13, and, just sharing information there. But, the more people we can get to help us do those types of things, it helps spread that word.
For sure. How could folks contact you if they're interested in trying to help?
Yeah, again, through the webpage or information at daeganpage.org kind of goes to everybody. But, yeah, we would love to have any help we can get.
Yeah, perfect. And, of course, if folks want to support, I assume there's a way that they could donate directly if they'd like, right on the website?
There is, yep. You can donate on the page. We've also got a link to our store where you can get shirts, hats, the common
folks can buy all that
good
swag.
Stuff to keep Daegan's name going and keep it out in the public.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
I mean, if anything else fails, people know you've said it enough here on Common Folk that they could message you,
100%,
Ben at farmfocus.com, and obviously he'd forward it on. But if they could reach out to you guys and help, I mean, I feel like there's should be somebody in the audience here that.
Oh, I guarantee there is.
Yeah.
I don't want to put you guys behind the eight ball, but we always do if they leave us a comment. If they leave us a comment for this one, could they get a page, a 13 shirt?
Heck yeah, man. We've got so backstory that folks. I wasn't planning on talking about this, but since you brought it up, we'll
talk about ourselves here.
Here at our facility, we're helping the foundation with the merchandising. So you can find it on both the websites that we host, FarmFocused, FOCUSED.com, and StockandRod.com. And then I'm sure you guys are posting those things all over the place too.
And then it's linked through their website.
Yep, and you guys can go there through your website as well. But yeah, there's a lot of really cool merchandise. We just working directly with you guys developed a couple of new things as well that are coming out this weekend. So it's stuff people would be proud to wear, proud to own. We wouldn't push it out if we wouldn't be proud to wear it ourselves, so folks know what's coming. But yeah, sure, Andy. I mean, like you said there, go on after you get done listening to this, leave us a comment, leave a review, let us know you did. We'll shoot you a free shirt, free hat, whatever it is that you like. Send Ben an email so that you,
there you go.
So that I know. so that Ben knows. So I'm talking about myself. in
Oh,
the third
wow.
person.
Yeah, you are.
In third person. I like that. And it would, I mean, if you're on Apple, it would help to give us a 5-star rather than a 4 or 3-star.
Does help, yeah, it does help.
5-star.
Yeah, we like 5 stars.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that's something that I love. I mean, anytime that I have on the shirt or have on something, somebody will ask, "Oh, what's the Daegan Page Foundation?" And as you can tell, I like to talk about Daegan, so that's a great way to kind of tell the story and keep it going. And
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
Very cool.
Yep.
that's awesome. Oh, good.
Anything else that you two have, or
I
no?
don't know.
Anything else you'd like to cover, Craig or Jenny? No.
You
No.
guys think of
we got
anything?
it. Cool.
yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're proud to have you guys here. This was actually Morgan's idea to do this episode, and I think it was a great idea. It's perfect timing.
Yep.
We consider you guys good friends, and we're happy to help any way that we can. And I think it's really cool for people to understand. I've never heard, a background story like this.
I have not either. I just
Behind-
feel like so happy
Yeah.
hearing all these stories.
Behind something like Memorial Day, I think it really helps it, hit home that much more for folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's the point here. So
And-
thank you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Greg, I love that message too. We all want to enjoy the weekend, enjoy the extra day, but take a moment, think about it. My mom always says around Christmas, there's a reason for the season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It holds true for this, maybe even more so.
Yeah.
Freedom is
100%.
not free. So.
There you go.
And
That's
tip
true.
one for Daegan.
Yep.
Yes.
That's true. We will be doing that.
Right.
All right, you convinced me.
All right,
right,
guys.
well,
Well,
thanks,
that's
guys.
it. Yeah, I think we'll shut her down, huh?
Alrighty.
Well, let's do it.
Peace.
All right. We'll see you.